Okay, got my recorder going, so it's being recorded on your side, is that correct?
Just 1 second.
All right,
Recording in progress.
there we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of a echo myself at this point. So anyway, for the record, it's November 20th, 2025, 11 o'clock a.m. I'm Phil Albert's hearing examiner for City of Lacey, holding a hearing today on an application for a setback variance, file number 25-0329 for property located at 6417 Shady Lane Southeast. The hearing format is we'll start off with a presentation from staff. Mr. Fant, I believe this is yours again here. Is that correct?
That
All
is
right,
correct.
great. All right. Then after Mr. Fence, then we can hear from the applicant. Then after that, we'll move on to any public comments. Then back to Mr. Fant after public comments are done to answer questions, provide rebuttal evidence, and then the applicant, as a matter of due process, gets final opportunity to present rebuttal evidence and final word. And I get 10 business days to issue a final decision. By state law, I'm only allowed to consider evidence put in the record. I don't get to talk to staff or read about the project in the papers or anything like that. All the information that I use to make that decision is going to be information that's made part of this record today. So we all know what that decision is going to be based upon. And part of that, the important part of that, then there's the exhibits identifying what documents we're looking at to make this final decision. And I'm sharing my screen right now. This is the second page of Mr. Fance's staff report, where he identifies the exhibits he used for his staff recommendation, composed of the variance application, some supplemental materials. There are several notices sent out, and staff comments from the building and fire department, and then a prior examiner decision related to this same property. So at this point, I just want to ask if anyone needs to see any of these documents or has any objection to their entry in the record. If you do, just click on the virtual hand at the bottom of your screen. And not seeing any takers, so I'll go ahead and admit Mr. Fant's staff report in addition to exhibits 1 through 5. So Mr. Fant, let me swear you in at this point. Just raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I swear.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
All right. So I don't have a flashy presentation today. It'll just be me pretty much going through the format of the staff report to make it known to all parties kind of what's in there and what the project is about. So as mentioned, this is at the Shady Lane 6417. It is a variance to reduce the side yard setback from 5 feet to 2 feet for a residential shop slash garage. The site is located on Hicks Lake. It is a site that steeps or has a steep slope going towards the lake from the right of way. The applicant intends to put their shop as close to the right of way as they can so as to stay out of the shoreline jurisdiction and outside of the prior recorded easement on site. The site is zoned low density residential with a shoreline overlay. It is a shoreline residential zone currently in our code. The historical context and the reason for having the final exhibit as it is in the packet of the prior hearing examiner decision was on February 5th, 2023. The City of Lacey received a complete application from the applicant on a prior land use variance looking to reduce the front yard setback from 16 feet to 5 feet. At the time, staff recommended denial. Upon going through the project or through the process, the hearings examiner reviewed the application and approved it, finding that 2 of the 4 conditions that staff denied did in fact meet the variance criteria. There are 4 criteria that variances are reviewed for underneath or at the City of Lacey, and I'll go through those since kind of the meat and bones of this operation here. The variance, or number 1 being the variance will not constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitation upon uses of other parties in the vicinity. The applicant contends that according to data downloaded from Thurston County Geodata, roughly a third of all structures around Hicks Lake are within that 2-foot property line. Staff finds that approval of the variance would not constitute a grant of special privilege. The applicant contends that the for number 2, such variance is necessary because of the circumstances relating to size, shape, topography, and location of the surroundings at the subject property. As mentioned, it is a narrow site. It is steep sloping towards the shoreline. The home is already built there. Building a shop of this sort in that shoreline area would both be would go against the intent of the SMP and preserving shoreline jurisdictions. As well, it would become infeasible to get access to it with a vehicle since it is a steep slope and you'd have to drive in the narrowness between the two lots to get there. Um, Staff concurs that that is indeed the case, and that that is met. The granting of such variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious. The applicant intends that the structure proposed as a two-story detached shop garage would be in keeping with existing legal documents. Presumably, the joint use access easement is what I assumed that to be referring to, and in harmony with the natural environment. Staff finds that reduction of a 5-foot setback to a 2-foot with the intent to construct an accessory structure would not be materially detrimental to the public. And then finally, the special conditions and circumstances do not result as actions of the applicant. The applicant contends that it does not. Staff finds that due to the easement, in conjunction with the prior hearings decision, is not self-imposed and would not constitute circumstances as a result of the applicant. And that about sums it up. I could pull up any examples of the site plan if needed, but that's all staff has on that.
Okay. Yeah, my main question is, kind of the necessity of the variance. It looks like we're talking about a 24-foot wide building. So, and they're just trying to get an additional 3 feet. I mean, why couldn't a 21, foot wide building work in this case?
Mhm. Is that directed towards staff or towards the applicant?
Yeah, so towards you, yeah. And of
Yeah.
course, the applicant can address that too. They may be in a better position, but I was just curious staff's take on that, the necessity for the variance. I don't recall if there's a requirement for minimum use in the variance criteria or something similar to that, but that's usually a pretty important part of the variance review process anyway.
Well, and currently, our variance language, I don't think has minimum use language in it. Uh, and so in conjunction with the last variance that we went through, we couldn't find an avenue that stated if we can put or make the applicant subject to different dimensional standards in this case. So
Yeah, well, that is interesting. Yeah, it doesn't look like your code does. Let's see, hold on a second. Huh, okay. All right. Thanks, Mr. Fant. Appreciate your comments. All right, let's move on to applicant then. Any comments from the applicant today?
Yes.
Good. Oh, hold on one second. Good morning, Mr. Obrecht. This is Heather Burgess. I'm counsel for the applicant. We're gonna call the applicant Kamala James. I think there'll be some probably helpful explanation for you as to why we're back in front of you again that she's going to be able to provide, and then Mr. Penrose as well. So I'll kick it over to Kamala. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
James, let me swear you in. Are you testifying as a lawyer today or as I think you're the applicant, correct?
Just the applicant.
Okay, let me swear you in then. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just going to very briefly recap what I talked about in our first hearing and state why I'm here a second time today. So in about 2019, we started having issues with theft from our yard, both myself and my neighbor Stan. We have this shared circular driveway. We cannot park our truck in the garage because the garage is too small, and that was the majority of the break-ins were happening in our vehicle. So we started looking at building this detached space. We designed a building and had a site plan drafted, and I went through 2 contractors. So I had the first contractor went to the city for me. He explained to me that I would need a variance in order to make this building fit, I'd need a variance to build within 5 feet of the property line on the roadside. He said he did tell me there was a 5-foot setback on the side yard, but he said that that he was told that if I engineered that sidewall as a firewall, I could be as close as 2 feet, which was going to fit in that area. He did not want to assist me with this process, thought it was going to take a long time. And so I moved on. I hired a second contractor. He went to the city, came back with the same information for me, the exact same information. But he also did not want to go through that process. He said I was going to have to do it myself. So I started this process, probably should not have done it on my own, but so everything was drafted. It was already, as it was drafted, it had that 5 foot setback, side yard setback. And I did not pay to redo that site plan yet because I wanted to see if I got this variance. And it was my understanding that I didn't need a variance for the side yard. So I went through the process of getting the variance for the roadside variance, and that was awarded. So then I reached out to the city to get the permit process started, and they indicated that we would need to be moving our gas and electrical lines. So that started after I was awarded that awarded that variance. That turned into a year-long ordeal for me dealing with PSE. I've been through three electrical project managers. The first one told me that we were going to have to bore underneath Shady Lane and place a pole on the other side of the road. So we started looking for contractors for that. And then we had a new electrical person reach out to us. They said that they were taking over our project. They came out and met with us, said we didn't have to bore underneath the road. That they had a different plan for us that involving a new pole on our property, which was going to make things a lot easier for us. Then that person was let go. Now I have a third person, and I do believe that all the electrical stuff is in place. They don't want us to put the new pole in until the building is done because they want some say on where that goes. So I think that piece is taken care of. The gas line, it took them several months to appoint me somebody for the gas line. Finally got that person appointed. We got that project lined up. That happened this summer. It was almost $13,000 to tear out my driveway, move the gas line, but that has been completed. So once that was completed, we put everything together, sent it to the city. I re-engineered that side wall as a firewall, paid to have the site plan redone with the 2 foot setback on the side yard, took it to the city. It actually went through the building approval process pretty quickly. That person said that they approved the building and that we should be to the permit process within 2 weeks. And then that's when the city reached out and said that the 2 foot setback was not going to work even with a firewall. So I went to my neighbor. I offered to buy 3 feet from him so that I could make this work. He did not want to do that, which I understand. Our lots are so extremely narrow, and he didn't want to give up 3 feet on his side. I went and had the building redrafted to shrink it to see if I could just get it into that space. But getting it as small as I possibly could get it and still making it usable for this purpose, it still would sit in my driveway about 2 feet. And that's going to prevent any kind of delivery trucks from coming in and out of our driveways. And I don't think there's any way that my neighbor or I could get our boats through that circular driveway if that sits 2 feet onto the easement. And he's been so great to me through this process, but he was not crazy about that. And I don't really blame him. So, nothing has really changed since my first hearing. I'm still all of the same issues that I had. In fact, I had tools stolen out of my front yard again this summer. It's just been very, very frustrating for me. I think that easy in and out access of our yard it just makes it appealing for people to do that. And I've installed motion lights, I've installed cameras. They come in my yard. The theft this summer, they were in my yard 45 minutes. That's how much time they spent in my yard. So I really, really apologize. This was not on my first variance hearing. It's my fault. I just didn't, I was under the impression that I didn't actually need a variance for that, or I would have asked for that all at one time. But that is why I'm here today.
Okay, just a couple questions for you. You mentioned that you're not able to move the building over into the easement, but what about making the building smaller? I mean, could you just explain why it couldn't be smaller? Because I recall that you need this to store some commercial vehicles, and I take it probably you need that width to store them. Is that what's going on?
Our truck, yes. So
Yeah.
I did go through all of that. I even paid a survey company to come out and resurvey the property just to make sure I am exact on where that property line is. So I did that. I paid to have the building redone so that I could get it as small as possible to fit that truck in there. But we did that, and then we took a drone, we outlined the building, took a drone and photographed it, and it sits 2 feet onto that easement, even after I shrink it as small as I can get it.
So are these delivery trucks wider than a typical vehicle? Is that what's going
Yeah,
on?
just like a UPS truck. In fact,
Okay.
yesterday I watched Amazon. They're parking in my neighbor's yard and walking over to my yard because they don't even like coming in and out of that. We're on that blind corner, and so they won't even use it as it is. But if I make it any smaller, I definitely won't be able to pull a boat in it through there.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. That's really helpful. All right, Ms. Burgess, did you have anyone else who wanted to testify today?
I did. I had Mr. Penrose.
Okay, Mr. Penrose, let me swear you in. Just raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Well, what we wanted to do this morning is just kind of reiterate kind of the special conditions that are present on Ms. James' property. As you notice from the submittal materials, particularly the map with the study area and the parcels around Hicks Lake and off of Shady Lane, there's 123 parcels, 211 buildings total on those parcels. And a large percentage of those are either primary residence, they have a primary residence or a accessory building or both. And I think, that's not unexpected on properties around the lake, boathouses and garage. The kicker is that the subject parcel is among the smallest on Hicks Lake, and 83% or about 103 of those parcels are larger. So really it's the property dimensions that trigger the need for the variance. And I think, fortunately, Ms. James has a good relationship with her neighbor, and they've coordinated the driveway access. But it is definitely complicated by the sight lines along Shady Lane and the speeds of that road, which it's got a bunch of challenging, turns and bends in it, which does impact the ability to drive in and out, which is kind of the reason why this structure shoved so close to that center parcel line. And as was mentioned, we definitely would have added the side yard variance to the original application a year ago had we known. So yeah, sorry, we're back in front of you with this item. But we do believe that it's necessary to get this variance in order to do this construction.
Okay, thanks, sir. All right, Ms. Burgess, anyone else?
I do not have anyone else. I just
Okay.
want to point out, as the examiner has previously admitted at his earlier decision, there are findings of fact 6 and 7 in your decision for which the facts are unchanged, specific to the suitability of the location for the building on the site, the need for the variance not being self-imposed, the configuration of the property. Like, none of those facts and circumstances have changed. So to the extent the examiner feels it's appropriate to carry forward earlier findings, it would seem that would be an efficient and appropriate thing to do. Of course, defer to your professional judgment on that. I also did want to point out on page 14 of the supplemental variance application that there is a letter from the neighbor expressing support for this particular approach. And that was alluded to in Ms. James's testimony. Other than that, that concludes the applicant's presentation. And again, this is unusual. I've never gone for 2 variances on the same property before. Hopefully, I'm sure Ms. James never cares to do so again. So appreciate your consideration of it.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Burgess. All right, now we get to public comments, and if there are any members of the public out there, click on your virtual hand. And Mr. Fant, I take it we don't really have any members of the public with us here today, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go back to you. Did you need to make any concluding comments, Mr. Fant?
No, I think that about sums it up. I guess one clarifying thing may be, and this was talked to with Marion, the partner who's also involved with this project on the site, was I think the misinformation about the 2-foot setback may have came essentially through the struggles of the city being siloed per department, where that would meet a building requirement. It can go down to that 2 feet without a variance, but it was the zoning code where that was non-flexible.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Fant. I'll go ahead and close the hearing. And well, I mean, I'm a little surprised the applicants are apologizing for coming here twice. I feel like, you know, we have to apologize for making you go through these hearings twice. I mean, it sounds like an honest misunderstanding, and it's a lot of work to have, additional work to have to do just because of a misunderstanding like that, just for a project that, you know, is this nominal, you know, compared to the 300 lot subdivisions and things that we deal with more regularly. So it looks like pretty solid, basis for requesting the variance, likely approval, and he'll get that out in a couple of weeks. So thanks all for going through this again, and hopefully you're near the end of your permitting processes and can finally get that thing built here pretty soon. So
Thank you.
anyway,